Good morning and welcome to Around the World News Update for Monday. Trump hails signing of landmark Crypto Genius Act for dollar dominance. U.S. President Donald Trump praised the signing of the new Crypto Genius Act during a speech in Washington on Friday, describing it as a major step towards cementing the U.S. dollar's global dominance. They named it after me. This is a hell of an act, and with today's signing, we are pushing even further into the exciting new frontier, Trump said. Just as I promised last year, the Genius Act creates a clear and simple regulatory framework to establish and unleash the immense promise of dollar backed by stable coins. This could be perhaps the greatest revolution in financial technology since the birth of the internet itself, he added. The politician also claimed that the previous U.S. administration was relentlessly assaulting crypto builders and founders, adding that since the November elections, the course has changed. But I pledged that we would bring back American liberty and leadership and make the United States the crypto capital of the world. And that's what we've done. And under the Trump administration, this is only going further. You're going to do really well, he added. Trump also claimed that the new act will extend the U.S. dollar dominance and will create a digital dollar used around the globe. And for every digital dollar in a crypto wallet, there will be a traditional dollar in a U.S. bank account, which will create trillions of dollars of demand for U.S. treasuries, he concluded. The signing event was attended by business leaders, including representatives from Robinhood, Tether, and Gemini. The Genius Act marks the United States' first major attempt to regulate digital currency by providing clear rules for issuing and managing stable coins and enabling approved institutions to enter the market. Furthermore, included in the legislation are consumer safeguards and monitoring in the $250 billion business. While the bill passed the House with bipartisan support, 206 Republicans and 102 Democrats voting in favor, it drew opposition earlier in the week from conservatives who questioned federal control.
The Genius Act provides banks, businesses, and financial institutions a framework for issuing crypto assets backed one for one with real U.S. dollars, treasury bills, and other cash equivalents. It's really strengthening the dollar and giving the dollar great prominence. And, you know, you have this little group called BRICS. It's fading out fast. But BRICS is, they wanted to try and take over the dollar, the dominance of the dollar, and the standard of the dollar. And I said, anybody that's in the BRICS consortium of nations, we're going to tariff you 10%. And they had a meeting the following day, and almost nobody showed up. They said, leave me alone. We didn't want to. They didn't want to be tariffed, did they, Howard? So it's amazing. No, we're not going to let the dollar slide. If we have a smart president, you're never going to let the dollar slide. If you have a dummy, that could happen. Like the last one, he would. If you ever asked him about the dollar sliding, he would have no idea. But we can't let that ever happen again. Consumers, vendors, and people all over the world will then be able to use those stable coins for ultra-low-cost transactions that are cleared and settled in a matter of seconds rather than weeks and months. And it's really an amazing thing. And with the privacy, flexibility, and decentralization of cash, this revolution has the potential to supercharge American economic growth and empower billions of people to save and transfer in U.S. dollars. It's really all backed by the dollars. It's really a great thing.
And it will extend U.S. dollar dominance, like you said, globally, by creating a digital dollar that people all over the world can use. And for every digital dollar in a crypto wallet, there'll be a traditional dollar in a U.S. bank account, which will create trillions of dollars of demand for U.S. treasuries. So that is the power of this bill, is U.S. dollar dominance. This is a huge promise made and promise kept by President Trump.
You've made our dollar look really good and strong and powerful. It's good for the dollar and it's good for the country. And that's why I backed you at an early stage. And I also did it for the votes, because you did come out and vote. I will tell you. This is not an auto pen, by the way.
Peruvian artist builds fantastic creatures by upcycling discarded electronics. Peruvian artist Jose Antonio Valdivia is building his own universe of fantastic creatures and iconic figures using discarded computer parts. His creations, crafted from abandoned keyboards and broken motherboards, both dazzle with their creativity and also raise environmental awareness among the younger generations in Peru. Footage filmed on Friday shows Valdivia working in his workshop, where since 2013 he has dedicated his life to rescuing electronic devices to give them a second life as art. I saw that a lot of waste electronics were not being properly treated, which inspired me to start my personal project of transforming these discarded products into works of art, he said. His workshop houses an astonishing collection, including a Predator movie, mask made from motherboards, a bust of Freezer from the animated series Dragon Ball X, constructed using fragments of his daughter's old CDs, and even a Groot from Guardians of the Galaxy. Everything is used here: keyboards, mouses, computer hard drives, memory cards, boards, main boards, USB drives. Almost everything can be reused and transformed into artistic works and functional objects, explains the artist, surrounded by his creation. Valdivia mentions that he started with fairly basic sculptures such as insects, arachids, and crustaceans, but little by little his work evolved into more complex creations and on into his prized pieces inspired by the science fiction. Valdivia points out that much of the technological waste arriving in Peru comes from developed countries, which send second-hand computers and devices without proper management. In 2023, Peru generated around 205,000 tons of electronic waste, but only 7% was recycled properly. The rest, more than 190,000 tons, ended up outside formal channels, representing a serious environmental risk due to the toxic metals contained in this waste. The figure reflects a critical gap in the management of technological waste. Residents clear debris after floods hit Mexico City. Heavy rains in Mexico City caused severe damage to at least 44 homes across the boroughs of Magdalena, Contreras, Alvaro Obregón, and Iztapalapa, as authorities urged residents to follow civil protection guidelines. Footage from Saturday shows the aftermath of heavy rains in La Magdalena, Contreras, where 6.5 millimeters of rainfall caused flooding and widespread after accumulation. Video also shows the residents cleaning up their houses as the borough drainage system reportedly collapsed in several areas. Alfredo Espinoza, whose home was hit by the flooding, said water from a nearby alley spilled into his house, rising to chest height. We lost my mom's laundry business, a fridge, a stove, the kitchen, a full bedroom, 4 motorbikes, and honestly, more than anything, we just managed to get the children out. It was like something out of a floor. Very intense. It was really serious, said Espinoza, who added that he managed to get his son and sister out of the house. Following the event, Mayor Fernando Mercado Guarda announced the opening of a temporary shelter at the Deportivo Oasis to assist affected families. He also stated that he is coordinating with the Mexico City government to organize a comprehensive emergency response. This is not the first time that floods have affected Mexico City. In June, heavy rains also caused serious flooding, forcing emergency crews to use boats for rescue operations and to recover dozens of partially submerged vehicles. Beni residents cautiously welcome a DRC M23 declaration despite many questions. Residents of Beni on Sunday voiced cautious hope for peace in Democratic Republic of Congo's DRC conflict-torn North Kivu province after a declaration of principles has been signed following months of negotiations with M23 group. It's similar to what happened between the DRC and Rwanda. They first signed an agreement in principle and then they reached a peace agreement. One of the locals, Cedric Mutea, said, "But we believe in peace and that peace will return one way or another." However, he went on to note that there are many questions remaining to be answered about the agreement, with a large number of DRC citizens not understanding what's really going on. We find it contradictory because they signed, then there are statements saying that the M23 is not going to withdraw, Mutea stated. Despite welcoming the achieved agreement, the president of the Congolese Civil Society Coordination, Junior Mubere Mbakolirani, also aired reservations. He highlighted frustrating issues in communication between the DRC authorities and M23 group. If you are there to sign an agreement, it is very important that you can respect it. But once there is no clarification in it, it casts doubt on the agreement signed between the DRC and FC M23, he continued. Mubere Mbakulirani warned that if peace is not achieved and fighting continues, the population exhausted by the conflict could rise up, and that will be serious. As the reliable guarantees of fragile peace, Beni residents anchored their hopes on the USA, the African Union, and the United Nations. Provincial deputy elected in Beniville, Eli Mbafumoja, called the international community to put pressure on the parties of the agreement framework would not be followed on the ground. We have suffered a lot, he stated. This is something that is destabilized us a lot, and we want to call on all authorities, especially the President of the Republic, to do their utmost to ensure that this agreement is implemented as soon as possible. The Qatar-mediated DRC M23 Declaration of Principles was signed in Qatar on Saturday. Qatar's Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, Mohammed bin Abdulaziz Al Khulaifi, described the agreement as planting the groundwork for a new phase of partnership among the various components of society in DRC. The declaration sets the start date for negotiations for a peace agreement to be no later than August 8, while the deadline for the deal is scheduled on August 18. Prior to the declaration, the DRC-Rwanda landmark agreement brokered by the United States and Qatar was signed in Washington on June 27. The deal calls for the creation of a joint security mechanism within 30 days to complete withdrawal of Rwandan troops within 3 months, and the launch of a regional economic plan within 90 days. The agreement follows years of violent conflict in North and South Kivu. The Democratic Republic of Congo has long accused Rwanda of supporting the M23 rebel group, accusations that Rwanda has denied. Hundreds left homeless after massive fire rips through DRC's Bukavu. A huge fire swept through the Nyakaliba neighborhood of Bukavu in Democratic Republic of Congo this week, destroying around 200 houses and leaving scores of families without shelter. Residents spent days clearing the debris and trying to rebuild. The blaze reportedly broke out during the night and spread rapidly across the densely packed neighborhood. Many residents were asleep or unaware until the flames had already engulfed nearby homes. I took the children and tried to get them to safety, but everywhere I went, there was fire, said local residents. Josien Muhido, who lost everything in the blaze. I remember thinking of going back inside to check on many things, like I often do, but I found the house already on fire. That's why we were left with nothing. Another resident, Roland Baywise, said he believed the fire was linked to alcohol abuse. Please stay away from alcohol. It can lead to disaster, he said. A fire broke out, and by the time we reached it, it was already too late. Now we have nothing left, no place to sleep, no food to eat. We don't know where to go, he said. We are appealing for mercy to the elders, the province, our city, our townspeople, and anyone with goodwill. Please help us. We need food, we need household items, even just blankets to cover ourselves. Even clean water is hard to find here, he added. Local officials pointed to structural issues as a major cause of the rapid spread of the blaze. Masala neighborhood chief Oliver Bahati noted that houses were built extremely close together. There is a house wall and another one not even 50 centimeters apart. And then this house catches fire, it quickly spreads to the other one. This is what bringing the disaster of the fire, he noted. Community members have since begun rebuilding, though most say they are forced to do without materials, tools, or formal support. Fires in Bukavu's informal settlements are frequent, and the poor electrical infrastructure, makeshift construction, and flammable building materials make neighborhoods like Nyakaliva particularly vulnerable. Gazan teachers launch education initiative for displaced Palestine children in Cairo. Gazan teachers Hana Al-Taba and Joanne Abu Shaba embarked on an initiative dubbed Educating Palestinian Children from the Gaza Strip relocated into Egypt temporarily. Footage filmed on Saturday shows children interacting with the teachers inside the classroom. Many children fled Gaza into Egypt. They are deprived of any sort of education, given that schools cannot allow them to attend classes and obtain certificates without residency permits, Abu Shaban explained. The turnout was high, and the children began learning the basic of reading and writing. However, no certificates can be granted, she continued. The teacher also stressed the need for psychological support for children who lost their families during the war, signaling that the initiative is a temporary solution when formal education is inaccessible. We fled Gaza without being able to bring anything, but this initiative allows us to ensure our livelihood while helping the students, Hana Al-Taba said. The main issue was the inability to work in any school without residency permits, so we started tutoring at home, she said. The Palestinian embassy in Egypt has been seeking temporarily residency permits for Palestinians coming from Gaza since the onset of war, according to the Institute for Palestinian Studies. The agency added that the figures are estimated between 120,000 and 150,000. Gazan Palestinians have been grappling with major challenges such as absence of residency permits, enrolling their children in schools, access to employment opportunities, healthcare, and the ability to open bank accounts. The embassy and the other Palestinian entities called for renewable residency permits, describing it as an urgent humanitarian step with no aim of permanent settlement. In turn, Egypt reiterated its rejection of any plan to forcibly displace the Palestinians from the Gaza Strip to Egyptian territories, affirming its stance that Palestinians must not be pushed outside their land and that opening border crossings must be for humanitarian purposes, not for granting permanent residency permits. The Hamas-Israel war broke out after Palestinian movement launched an attack on southern Israel on October 7, killing 1,139 people, mostly civilians, and kidnapping over 200 and held in the Gaza Strip. In retaliation, the Israeli military conducted a widespread military campaign of airstrikes and ground incursions, killing 58,765 Palestinians and injuring 140,485 at the time of publication. We end Around the World News Update. Good morning.